my god.
JID the monster is back. JID is fucking back, bro.
That was one of our reactions to the Forever story. If you guys want to check out the full live stream, click the link in the description. But Lou, let's get into this, man. I have been waiting so long for this album, and I think it's safe to say the wait was definitely worth it. So you want to jump into this artist performance?
Let's get into the artist performance for
sir.
starters, and this is definitely one of the strongest points of the entire album. I feel like JID is truly an outlier when it comes to all the artists that we have within the hip-hop world, and I think
That's facts.
a big reason for that is that he's become the Yoda of flows. He's literally mastered that component like he has in the past, but he's just mastering also the ability to be unpredictable and spontaneous, and he truly, I feel like, morphs into a chameleon on this album, where you're getting performances like on the song Stars, where he's shifting his pitch from high, then he goes into a distorted low pitch from one line to the next, and you're just left mind blown by how he's actually transforming his own voice. So that was a big highlight for me. Not only that, but even the different cadences on songs like Dance Now, where he seamlessly switches over to this Jamaican accent. He always left me guessing with what he was going to do in terms of his inflections from one song to the next. I also like the fact that he really tapped into his singing bag on this album.
Yeah, on songs like Cody Blue 31, that was a fantastic singing performance. And I got to say this as well. I think that, yes, I agree with you that before going into this album, I knew JID was the master of flows. I mean, you got all kinds of crazy flows from him. He brings in an arsenal, and that was perfectly executed on this. But to be honest with you, I think the thing I was the most impressed about is all the different types of cadences that he brought into this album. From song to song, you're going to be left wondering, how is he going to attack this verse? You know, what's going to be the switch within this line to this line? And I think that even if you're looking at something like Just in Time, where he brings in more of a triumphant cadence to his, to the arsenal, where he has to keep up with Lil Wayne now, and even that beat was fantastic. I'm going to get to that in the production, but I think that I like how many different cadences that he tried out here, and it worked for him. And I also want to say this about the artist performance, like J.I.D's low-key at like the top of his popularity right now, and I hope it goes even further because he deserves it, but he could have made a lot of different creative decisions when it came to his artist performance, when it came to delivering on certain songs.
Yeah, he could have had more like radio-friendly hooks or that type of thing,
this
but
was
he
not
did
the
not
case
sacrifice
here.
his own art in order to sell out, and I really appreciate that from JID. And going back to what I was saying about the singing, he really elevated on that frontier. It was absolutely magnetic, and I feel like that's a detriment to a lot of artists who drop albums within the last couple of years, that when they get into the melodic bag, they can't actually keep up the quality. But that was not the case for JID. Also, this album is filled with JID's personality, bro, because he's showing different sides of himself. If it's going to be him, let's say, getting more sentimental and vulnerable, he does that. If it's him getting into a braggadocious bag where he wants to prove that he's the best rapper alive, he does that too. So I think that overall the artist performance was perfect.
Oh, there was not a single miss on this album when it came to J.I.D. He carried it, and to be honest with you too, like, you're also going to find super aggressive performances from him on something like, let's say, Louder 2, where he has these super quick flows, and then he's mixing different cadence switches within those flows, and again, you're left wondering, how does he really carry this?
How did you like the hooks on here?
Honestly,
fire,
like,
right?
they were all fire, bro. Like, it was never a point where I felt like, okay, there was something weaker than another. Like, everything was perfectly balanced within this track list, and J.I.D. knew how to carry songs that were also 4 minutes plus.
And 3 verses. I love that he's bringing back the 3 verses, because that's also been absent in a lot of hip-hop albums. So overall, J.I.D. absolutely fucking snapped on this album. But let's now go into the content matter, because this is a very important component of this album, and I feel like this feels like kind of a culmination of J.I.D's life. He's kind of encompassing his childhood. He's encompassing his passion for the art of hip-hop. He's encompassing also the future of his career, and also different states of mind when he was younger, all the way to where he's at now.
And I also want to say this, is I feel as if this was the perfect album to be able to follow up with the Never Story, because the Never Story was kind of the base of that, and how he came through and how he was able to enter the lane. It was kind of like his first victory lap in his career, well, showing like the griminess and what he grew up in.
That was the foundation.
It was the foundation, and now this is that full circle moment for him, where now, he's still reflecting on his past and everything that made him, the man he is today, but now there's kind of like this extra layer to it where he's taking his victory laps in a different way. Now, he's talking about also not being as close to his family because of his career, and like, how that affects him on a day-to-day. But to be honest with you, like, I came into this J.I.D. album for bars and like punchlines. So I want to start off with Crack Sandwich, bro. Okay, listen to this one. This was on verse 1. First take, go to first base, Stephen A. Smith West. on the hill talking shit like Skip or Shannon sharpshooting off the top of the cliff,
The
bro.
whole
Like,
Smith and Wesson double
bro,
entendre
it
was
was just
fire.
incredible.
I also love what he did on Raydar because he actually transforms into hip hop's Thanos. When you look at lines like, "With my 9, I'm like 10 Avengers. Snap a finger, I could end adventures." So there's a whole Avengers and Adventures wordplay. Then he also circles back to that same sentiment for the last line of that song where he raps, "I can snap my fingers, they'll disappear." And he's not talking about superheroes. He's talking about other rappers in the game. And I love that he's really reaching for that throne, and nobody else is really doing that or doing that on his level.
Exactly. But I want to go back to Crack Sandwich too, because then you get to verse 2, and then he says, "I'm a fucking artiste with the gun. I can give my world peace, give your world ether." And of course, he's referencing Ron Artest, and the whole wordplay throughout this album is just genius. And what's crazy about Crack Sandwich, then you get to the third verse, and now you have storytelling out of nowhere about he got into this huge fight with different people involved, and then there's like
they're at a party in New Orleans, and I think someone had hit his sister, and then there was a huge brawl outside. Not only that, but going back to what you were saying about the basketball references, I love that aspect of this album because on the Never story, you got a lot of football references on songs like Never, but on this one, there was even one on the song Dance Now where he raps, "Let me bear it all when I talk to God. You know I'm a rant when I talk to Ja." And of course, this is a double entendre because he's actually mentioning Ja Morant and that nice homophone there. And of course, him saying, "Let me bear it all," is because Ja Morant plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. So that was super fire. And speaking about the actual narrative of the album, I want to kind of tap into that right now. It was super well executed because he's really giving you a lot of insight about his family life, how he was raised, lessons that his father passed down to him about like on Crack Sandwich, like if you got hurt and you fell down, get up and get a fucking bandage. You know what I mean? Be a fighter. Have that mentality instilled within you. And I think that it's cool that you're getting that all throughout so many different tracks. I mean, even a song like Systenem, when he's talking about his relationship with his sister and how they kind of strained a little bit because of the distance between them and he's traveling the world.
And there's one thing I also wanted to bring in for the content section of this review was 2007, because this was supposed to be the outro. And like, listen, in my books, it's still the outro of the album because that's how JID wanted us to listen to this. And 2007 is so cool because it kind of feels like, his last call, kind of reflecting on, to the point that he's gotten to now. And you have his father speaking on there, you have J. Cole speaking on there. And what's interesting too is that he's also showing you what he was bumping back then to be able to get to the point he's at now musically. So referencing projects like the Sideline Story and referencing Section 80, like that was so cool. And I think those storytelling cuts within the album add so much value for how you're going to be able to understand the overall
And that's
theme.
where he leveled up as well as a songwriter, is just the vivid imagery that he's able to set up within so many of these songs. Even a song like Bread and M, for example, or even Better Days, where he's kind of penning this open letter to his friend who's serving time in prison. That was fucking brilliant. And I think that overall the content was perfect. And I love the idea that the title of the Forever Story is so fitting because he's really showing you how everything that he was taught and all the experiences that he went through as a kid, that's still part of him. He takes those roots with him, even though he's matured and kind of became the superstar within the rap game. It's still all connected into his life.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this album. It really does feel like a full circle moment. And even when we were reading out the track list yesterday, was the infinity symbol, and this is what it is now. Like he's on this path. It was written for him. So that's for that. I mean, listen, two perfect ratings here, but let's go into the features, all right? So I love what he did with this feature list because he got Atlanta natives on this.
A lot of them, yeah.
He had gotten some features where I was like, man, I've been wanting this duo for a while, and Lil Wayne too. Having even Yassine Bey on this, Mos Def, like that was such a great call. But what's your favorite feature on this album, bro? Because it's
feature, there's so many. I love what James Blake did on Systenem. I mean, I feel like his vocals always pierce through your heart. I just wish his contribution was a bit longer because I can't get enough of his angelic vocals. Apart from that, of course, Lil Wayne fucking snapped, but I do think that JID out-rapped him. And this is amazing because for someone that's still kind of getting his name around, for JID to out-rap a legend like Wayne, I was blown away, and I think that the third verse really sealed the deal for me on that song.
Yeah, but I think that that's what JID does best with all of these features is like there's such like this beautiful energy that goes between them. So either if it's like competing with Lil Wayne or sharing a song with Mos Def, like it
is
just
that
feels,
your favorite feature, by the way?
Yeah, I think so. It's just like it says like let's have a word from one of our ancestors, and then you have Yassine that comes in, and it's just like, whoa, this is nuts. I feel like I'm listening to like 2000s hip hop again. So I love that. I loved Kenny Mason's hook on Dance Now, and it really makes me want to see them do a collaboration album. I would love to see that as a tape one day or something to be able to happen, because J.I.D's been co-signing him his whole career practically, and I'd love to see that happen. Even Johnny Venus and Dot had great verses and chemistry on Can't Punk Me. Those were fantastic, and that's gonna go with like the divisions, let's say, and like different stuff from like, their collaborations.
That's like the only song where I'm like, you know what? Dr. Dot got the best out of all three of them,
yeah,
bro.
You think so?
I really feel that way. But I mean, it's pretty impressive to know that J.I.D. did not get washed by Mos Def or Lil Wayne. Like, that was something where I'm like, who knows what could happen, but Mos Def absolutely killed it. Incredible rhyming and streams of consciousness, just rapping about how, like, even though you might be a star within the rap game or any kind of form of entertainment, maybe your spirit is kind of struggling. You know what I mean? Maybe the chain is too heavy and it's kind of fucking up your back.
Absolutely.
So I love what he did there. But let's talk about the kind of flaws within the feature list, which there isn't many. I love what Ari Lennox did on her track Can't Make You Change, although I do think that the mix of her hook and then the bridge right after, it kind of dragged a little bit for me.
Yeah, I had that problem with the pacing on my first listen yesterday, but I went back this morning, and it's not that big of an issue for me. I'm still locked into it, and I think she had fantastic vocals on that song. The iffy part about the track list maybe gets to like Lil Durk's part, because yes, I do feel like Lil Durk had a good verse. I'm not going to say that it was, anything mediocre. It was definitely well delivered. It's just like, in comparison to what else is going on onto this album, you do feel as if he's the weaker link to the track list, and that lies within the features.
I felt like he was rapping ahead of the beat. If he had slowed his flow down just a little bit, I feel like it could have been executed better, because he does fit on that song, because he's also rapping about his relationship with his brother, which kind of fit thematically with the rest of the track.
It was well done. It's just like, as you said, it didn't sound, let's say, as nice as, let's say, well, I know I'm comparing Lil Durk to
21 Savage,
but like even 21 Savage, though, 21 Savage had a ridiculous verse on surround sound. Then it was like, okay, that's what I wanted. I'd say out of like maybe the Trap or Joe features off the album. But regardless, though, I still do think that the features were amazing. I also want to shout out, I believe it is Raven Lene, for Louder 2. The way that her vocals bleed in after JID's first verse was incredible. And when I listen to it now, it's slowly becoming one of my favorite features on this whole album, and I'm being honest with you. So, features amazing. What are we saying about
Absolutely amazing, and they could have gone to perfect if it wasn't for Durk, to be honest with you.
But like, again, the Durk feature is not bad whatsoever.
It wasn't bad.
It's good. But let's go on to production, all right? Because one thing with JID albums is that the production needs to be as quirky and as dynamic as he is. And when you have people like Chris Dorr, Monte Booker that are going to be taking care of the soundscape, you know that you're in for a treat. So, what's the first thing that you notice about this soundscape, and how did it play into your album experience?
I think that it was forever evolving. That's what I really enjoyed about this soundscape, is the fact that there's really a vast selection of these unique compositions and beats. And what's crazy, too, is that if you count 2007, because I believe there's like 10 beat switches on that track, you're probably listening to 40 different beats throughout this entire album, because every song has a fucking beat switch practically, which is super cool to keep you engaged within that track. Not only that, but I also like the fact that J.I.D., the approach he had with this production on the album was a minimalistic approach on some songs. For example, on Raydar, for the first section of that beat, you have this thumping bass and these 808s, but also you get a side of JID where you're getting more maximalist productions, where you're getting orchestral sounds. You're getting violins ringing out on songs like System, for example. My favorite beat, though, has to be Stars.
Oh, absolutely.
That flute was mesmerizing on that. It felt like a Mad Lib production, so it was amazing to hear
and that was produced by
it.
Bad Not Good, Christo, and E. Jones. And what's crazy about it, too, is that you kind of feel like you're in a Disney movie. You kind of feel like you're watching Bambi almost, for how like euphoric it is. And then there's like these glistening keys that come through to start off, and it automatically locks you in. And the tempo of that production kind of gets a bit darker once your scene comes through, and you're like, whoa, okay, now you feel the energy drop, but Mos Def's rapping comes through and it automatically gets you engaged. But I was also a fan of the sampling on this album. Fun fact, he sampled Stick for Just in Time. I'm not sure if you noticed that. And J.I.D. sampled his own song, Drew, from his 2013 project called Para 2. If you guys have not checked it out, it's essential for his catalog. And I believe that was on the song Louder 2. Yeah, and you could hear it in the melody and back.
Yeah.
And then for Dance Now, it was Yoels Negan by Zusha. And that was a fantastic flip as well. I know that you're not big of a fan of that sample flip, but I really enjoyed enjoy
Yeah,
it.
I like how unique it is. It's actually taken from a Jewish folk band. I just like the whole like bam, bam, bam. It gets repetitive for the duration of the song because it's kind of persistent throughout for me personally. But another standout, I don't know if you noticed this, maybe I'm kind of reaching here, but on the song Crack Sandwich produced by Crystal, you're kind of hearing this out of tune guitar,
Yeah.
and I felt like that was kind of meant to emphasize how broken and desolate
But you know what's
JID's childhood was.
Yeah, and
that's kind of what I picked up.
But this is what I have to say
that.
too, okay? Because I noticed that, but you know what comes before that? Those haunting piano keys that lead you into the song. So automatically, I feel like what that beat did is that it put you into a dark mode where JID went into dark content matter, and then that was like one of those songs where it was a bit more quirky. It was super unconventional as a production, but it worked so well.
Yeah,
for
and overall, I love the jazzy and funk undertones. A lot of these
sir.
beats reminded me of things I would have heard off of Aquemini in terms of the types of bass lines being used. Another standout, K Tronada.
And JD
he
Beck
did
on
his
Punk
thing
Me,
on Camp Punk Me. Love the woozy synths. I love the percussion as well on that track. So
and the beautiful
that's
bass line
standout.
as well. You know, as like you have all three of them, just doing their verses and the quick drum patterns and snares to be able to keep you in the groove of everything. Man, what a
so diverse.
Yeah, it was
as a soundscape.
it was such a great soundscape. I think it was amazing. The production's going to be amazing on this. It's going to be able to keep you locked in throughout all of it. And wow, I'm really enjoying. I'm being honest with you guys. I really do enjoy this album. But speaking about that, let's get into the replay value, okay? Because as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, 4 years in the making, man. You and I went and go watch DiCaprio 2 live at a show. I met J.I.D. at a meet and greet, and now I get to cover one of his albums, and it's an honor because I have been personally waiting for this album for such a long time, and I think that's where my replay value is going to stem from this album. I think that I want to sit with this. You have full of songs that are 4 minutes plus. This is over an hour runtime, so you have to go through it. Plus, this is the only track list this year, or at least one of them that I could say that I feel is truly skipless. Like, there's not a single weak track on this, and you could find value and top-notch value within all of these tracks. And I do think that we have an album of the year contender on our hands.
Absolutely. And it was pretty crazy within the live album reaction that we did because we were going from one song to the next and we're like, okay, he's just not going to miss.
No,
he is just not going to fucking miss on this track list. And for all 16 songs, he kept me entertained. And I think that when you're going through just the different types of moods that he creates from song to song, the different types of energies, there's something for everybody here. If you like more melodic cuts, he provides that. If you like something that's more triumphant with the blaring horns on a song like Just in Time, you're getting that braggadocious energy from JID. And he's been one of my favorite artists for such a long time. And it's just because of how much he truly cares about the art form. And I feel like his passion is something that wants me to keep revisiting this track list. And I feel like right now, it's the album of the year.
Yeah, it is album of the year. It is, for sure.
But
it's in contention, though. There's others.
There's Mel Mice, Your Future, that's neck and neck.
Yeah, there's Joe
Mr. Morale.
Joe Music and Zion. Apparently, Cheat Codes is in there as well. We're going to maybe wait for that on a review. But listen, I think that the replay value is going to be perfect on this. And now it's like, what is he going to be doing with DiCaprio 3? Like, apparently he's going back into that Gangsta Grills lane, and he's going to be delivering more fire raps and those one-off types of tracks. So, overall thoughts, man. I mean, what an album experience. Like, I'm actually speechless. This is definitely my album of the year at the moment, and I'm only like maybe like I would say maybe 5 to 6 listens in full complete analyzation. So that's kind of where I'm at with this album. I love what JID did here because, as I said, he could have gone into a different route artistically. He's the type of guy that right now he's at the peak. Like, he really does have like what he has to do, and I want to see him break, and I want to see him break more barriers because this guy is limitless when it comes to rap, and I do truly appreciate that. So that's at least on my end.
I had two questions going into this album. First question was going to be, will this be his unanimous masterpiece, which I think it will be. The second question, will this be the album that propels him to the mainstream? I don't think so, but that's okay because he stuck to his craft, and it's super exciting because he does have songs like, for example, Cody Blue 31 that preach a concept that's universal, which is just about moving forward and coping with personal trauma. So that was beautiful. And I think that overall, JID really proved that he has hunger, that he has passion, that he had focus when crafting the direction of this album. And I think that his vision really shines bright. Not only that, but I love the portrayal of JID's family because it was detail-oriented, it was lively, and it was authentic. He's giving you the names of his family members. He's making them speak throughout this album. And it just really felt like an experience that was very personal to him, very cathartic. And I think that in terms of really being transparent and open, in terms of sharing a piece of you, JID really executed on that. And he's confirmed to be the lyrical giant out of Atlanta and out of the South right now, and he solidified himself as probably one of, if not the best rapper of this generation.
One of them, absolutely. So I think overall the album was amazing, guys. You're gonna have so much fun going through this. It's probably my album of the year right now.
Yeah.
But let me know in the comment section, guys. Is it your album of the year if you've already bumped it or not? And let me know how you guys feel about
Also,
the review. Go
overall score amazing.
Yeah,
it came close to perfect though.
Yes,
I want to say that.
It did. We had a phone call this morning.
did.
Okay?
We
We had a
did.
phone call. We were like, this is gonna be like. We were like. Okay, listen, you know what? This might change over time. So I want to say that, but at the moment, we do have it as amazing, and it's our album of the year. So, guys, thank you so much for rocking with NFR Podcast. As I said, let us know how you feel about, the Forever story in the comment section. And, guys, just stream JID all weekend because you have a fantastic album on your hands. Thank you guys so much for watching this review, and we'll catch you in the next one.